You are listening to Hard House History with Paul Glazby.
The infamous Madders. Welcome to When I Grow Up. How are you doing?
Now then, our lad Paul, I'm fine. Been a long time, no see speak. A long time. Yeah, I'm okay, mate. I'm not bad. I'm alive. I can't say I'm well, but I'm alive.
You look well. I just want to say a few things before we let you sort of get into your story, because I think most people will know who you are, but I'm not sure everyone kind of understands the impact that you will have had on what happens and what has happened in the scene over the last 25, 30 years. The events that you put on, like when people now go to, you know, whether it's Insomniacs or Tidy Tracks and the events that they put on, you guys were like as far as I was concerned, you were the guys that were doing all that stuff to that kind of level, like the production and the shit that went on at Sundissential was like next level. You guys were doing that 5-10 years before. It's just nuts. The things that like it's crazy. Like I can still remember now standing watching Tony DeVee at Sundissential, and there's some guy walking past with a snake, and then there's some bird on stilts walking around, and you know, like I'm this 19-year-old kid just being exposed to this music, you know, like I was in the first 12 months of even knowing what Hard House was, and all this shit is going on. It's just nuts. So you were a real pioneer, I think, of the kind of Hard House events that we have now, and credit to you.
Thank you. Yeah, it's like I say, Paul. It's now you've mentioned it like that. It does feel a long time ago. I mean, the thing is with both me and Danny, and you know the mutual friends we had from you know sort of 1991 onwards, really. You know, obviously we all know that the clubbing scene, you know, it's a very polite, politically correct phrase. You know, let's have it right. You know, the truth is, Paul, after the last of the big three parties, Castle Morton in Worcestershire back in 1990 or 1991, the law changed. Misuse of Drugs Act came in, the Licensing Act came in, and obviously those early days of you know, obviously came out of the fields and came out of the from the sort of illegal side of stuff to more progressive licensed events, you know, rain dance and all sorts of Helter Skelter, and I mean the list is endless. But so when it became sort of that you could have a dose of it every week, you know, I suppose really, for me personally, it became like one of my first addictions. Really, you know, I'd phone my mates on a Monday, you know, the dreaded Monday. You know, you come down Monday, etc., and be wanting to know where they wanted to go on Saturday night and stuff, and they just used to tell me to F off because you just didn't want to talk to me at that on a Monday, you know. So that sort of became a huge fascination for me, and also going to Ibiza back in the early 90s onwards, mid 90s, and just seeing clubs like Manumission and Space on a Sunday, and you know, and later on DC10 and stuff like that. I mean, it was insane. You know, this was like people being able to really express themselves.
Yeah.
And as you say, Paul, if someone wanted to walk around Sundissential with a snake, as long as it weren't going to bite me on the arse, I weren't too bothered. and we had all sorts. We were very in the early days a very mixed crowd. We would attract many from the gay community, because where the Pulse nightclub was at the top of Her Street in Birmingham, if you remember that, if you face downwards going away from the city centre, all that there is Birmingham's gay village, and it's still a prominent landmark area today in Chinatown.
Yeah.
And so we would attract. And because we were a members club, remember we started on a Sunday, hence the name Sundissential. It's essential to be there on a Sunday. My mum made that up. That's another story, and that's true.
Right.
And that goes back to when I worked for the family firm, but I'll come on to that another time. So we were able to, because you had to be a member. We were the first, Paul. We were. We can talk about the music and the DJs, until we turn purple, Paul. But the actual to achieve the UK's first licensed Sunday dance music event anywhere. Well, I've just said that we were the first. There was yes, there were things going on in London. I get that. There's always things going on in London. But I'm talking at a level where we had to follow strict licensing rules around a membership. And obviously the famous cards, the membership cards, the red and yellow, or the yellow and red, we would swap them round. You had to be a member. And that's why, particularly the bank holiday events, when people didn't have to go to work on a Monday, basically. Yeah. And sort of the birthday events, the New Year, that type. They were mammoth, and because it was a unique product. I remember our first bank holiday back in 1997, Easter, and it was we got it. We were licensed, I think, from 12 p.m.
Yep.
To midday to 10 p.m. And you look in the modern era, Paul. It's nothing. It's absolutely nothing. People go out 7 days a week now at all hours of the day and night. But back then, midday, a midday start and a 10 p.m. finish. We soon changed that. We were able to tweak that to 2:30 till 12, I think, or 2:30. I think we ended up at 2:30 till 12. But those early ones, it was like 12. The big events were like 12 till 10, but that's where the winner was, because we were offering this to our members and their guests only policy for 10 hours. Our music policy may not have been quite where we wanted it at the beginning, but when I look now, when I look at the careers of, look what you've achieved. You just told me there you've DJ'd in New Zealand last week. It's incredible, Paul. It's and congratulations and fair credit to what you do. Still,
thanks, man.
For your love of the scene and the music, but when I look, but I remember vividly. We had no ticket policy. It's a bit embarrassing. We shot ourselves in the foot, really. Caused some damage because we basically said it was pay on the door. This was our first ever, big bank holiday event, Easter 1997. Yeah. And the answering machine for the event was my home telephone number. Can you imagine what it was like? It wouldn't stop. Fortunately, BT's phones at the time, you could turn them down to silence. Hardly any mobiles around then, so there wasn't. Yeah. So I've got my home landline, advertising the event where the where the bloody thing's about to blow off the wall because of the amount of calls that kept coming in. I kept hearing it click, click. That's when I knew a call had finished and another one had started.
Right.
And I knew that it was going to be busy, but didn't really know until we got phoned by the police that there was 5,000 people outside. 5,000 people had turned up for an event with a capacity of maybe just shy under 2.
Jesus.
And it was an outstanding success. I mean, it was again another one of those launch of the brand. But you know, for the 3,000 poor bastards left outside to having to go home, it wasn't clever.
No.
But it was known then, and I'm probably certainly right. 30 years on, it's still the biggest crowd that's ever turned up at a nightclub in Birmingham for any event. You know, I mean, it went all round. It was snaking in a huge square all the way round Bristol Street, Smallbrook, Queensway, Hirsch Street, the road off it. It was a sight to behold, but it pissed a lot of people off. But the event itself was phenomenal. And, you know, by then, Paul, as well, you know, we got our residents. You remember, you know, Lisa Lashes, look at where her career went, you know.
Yeah.
Tony DeVee, I mean, my God, you know, I mean, he was priceless before he even joined Sundissential. So, you know, he was already hugely established. But if I look at the core, that, you know, the sort of founding for Birmingham, Lisa Lash, hold on, maybe 5, hold on. Fergie, that's documented. He was 16 at the time, bless him. Yep. Lisa, Andy Farley, Nick Rafferty, and Paul Kershaw. So the original 5, and then with the addition of Tony DeVee's residency from 1997 until his sad death.
Yep.
Really not long.
No.
Long after 1998.
Yeah.
So,
yeah.
And then we start looking at Sundissential North, and we started there with Rob Tissera and Anne Savage, and then obviously, meeting yourself and and a host of other folk who cut their teeth at the events we used to do in Leeds, etc. So great times. But those early events were sometimes a little bit hit and miss, Paul. But the crux of Sundissential's ethos never changed. It was an expressive club.
Yeah.
I've got to watch what I say in the modern era, but we used to get girls turn up and they would wear nothing.
Yeah.
Nothing.
I used to love it.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what, mate. Actually, I'll tell you this. I came to Sundissential one. It wasn't a bank holiday. It was just one of the normal. Did you do a place called the Church?
Yeah, we did. We did a few.
Right. So I came there. Me and my mates came down on a Sunday, and then a few weeks before, maybe a few months before that night, there was a show on TV. It was like I can't remember what it's called, but it was like a Married at First Sight type of thing. Like one of these shows where these people meet and they get married on the. Anyway, there was this real fit blonde bird who was on the show, and I get to Sundissential and she's there, and I end up copping off with her.
Never.
Used to be
you ran the old goat.
Yeah, I know. Like you had the bean bags, didn't you? There, I'm sure, or like them soft seat things. There, and I remember telling my mates when I in the week, I'm like, you never guess what I got off with this weekend. So it was. I used to love Sundissential.
No, it's very expressive. I mean, when I say girls would turn up with nothing on, I mean they literally would. I mean they'd have a bikini bottom on or something, but they would spray themselves, in body paint, in red and yellow, and you'd have big chunky heels on, and they'd strut around. But you know what? There was never, Paul, any misogyny, sort of the behaviours. There was no touching.
No,
it was all very respectful. Gay clubbers were very well respected and loved and welcomed. you know, the lads who I knew from the town, you know, it would come and they would, you know, they would join in, and yeah, we created an expressive heaven, I think, me and Danny. I think that's something, Paul, that was, I think, as the brand grew, I think we started to be labelled a little bit too much in, you know, the hard music scene per se, the music, rather than the club, the brand as a whole.
Yeah, I think that was really, though, in that sort of, when you tipped from the late 90s into the early 2000s, it like, I guess hard house got a lot more compartmentalized, in as much as,
Yeah.
you know, like, because up until, I mean, Amadeus will probably argue with what I'm going to say, but I always think that sort of, when you went 99 to 2000, hard house became a thing then, you know, like, whereas it was quite vague before. You got Tony DeVille that would play at Gatecrasher, and he'd play, you know, F1 tracks, and you know, I remember going to see him there, but then it got, you know, by 2000 you would never have a hard house DJ playing at Gatecrasher.
No.
But then but hard house became a much more, and you know, what we did with Vicious Circle, you know, making that, you know, what we did was very different to Tidy Tracks or Nucleus, and I think so it's probably just a sign of the times that Sundissential got labelled as a hard house club rather than being the sort of experience that it had been before.
That's brilliantly put, Paul, because you know, I'm sitting here having a dummy brummy moment, thinking in the autumn sunshine, thinking, what's the word that's missing here? And you just said it, experience. And that's what we created, and that's what we wanted. Hence the reason why, even you know, at the end, you know, you never. I mean, apart from the Saturday nights, which eventually took off in 1999 to, you know, after a difficult start. But I think if you look at the Leeds crowd, it was always we were monthly up there. We would do. Even on non-bank holidays, we still, at Club Evolution in Leeds, we were still pulling in like 2,300 people.
Oh, it's insane.
That's insane. You know, so obviously there was 2,300 people that decided on the Monday they weren't going to fucking work or university. You know, excuse my French. You know, and you know, so yeah, it was insane. But I think the experience, I'm not going to use the word diluted, because people were still very expressive, you know, especially around the adopting the Sundissential logo and font, as making outfits and stuff like that. But certainly a little bit of the Sunday madness, I think, disappeared in the weekly Saturdays. As busy as they were, you know, we weren't getting camels turn up at the front door, and you know, people walking around, you know, doing the things that they did. You know, I mean, there was, you know, it didn't dilute out. It just changed. You know, you are right. I think the fact that, you know, but also in I think. What to add on into what you said there about the worm that turned in around about 2000 was, by rights, Paul, and again, this is important. People forget that in 2000, and it could only have landed on mine and Danny's doorstep, that we had 2 deaths in Birmingham and 2 deaths in Leeds, all within 6 months.
Yeah, well, that's actually what I was just thinking before you said that, is the cultural shift in that early 2000s was the drugs, like, because all of a sudden you'd got ketamine and GHB that had not been there before. You know, so, you know, we saw that at Insomniacs, and so there was a lot of things, I guess, happening around that time that would have had that kind of impact. That, you know, so it wasn't your fault. It was just how things sort of played out. But I wanted to tell you a story that, I mean, you'll be completely unaware of this. I remember, so for me as a DJ, bedroom DJ, for me to make it would be for me to play outside Sheffield. It's like if I got a gig outside Sheffield, then I've made it. That was like my sort of goal. And I got introduced to a gym that I used to train at. The aerobics instructor, this woman, she used to train at the gym, and she was an aerobics instructor. And I always used to do new tapes nearly every week. And I'd always give one to Andy, who was the owner of the gym.
Yeah.
Anyway, this woman had been in the gym and heard that he'd been playing the tape, and she asked him, she got a copy of this tape. That weekend, she's out, she's playing, an after party. She puts the tape on, and there's a guy there that's doing an event in Birmingham. And he's like, who's this? So anyway, I walk in the gym on the Monday, and this Andy's like, I've got you a gig. I think I've got you a gig. So anyway, we organised for me to meet this promoter. So I spoke to this woman, and she's like, come to Sundissential in Leeds and I'll introduce you to the promoter. So I go up there, and I think it was the first time that you'd ever done Leeds and Birmingham at the same time. I'm pretty sure it was, or it might have been the second time. But I just remember being in Leeds, and because all my mates were going to Birmingham, but I thought, well, I can't miss this opportunity. I've got to go to Leeds. So I go up there, and it's just incredible, and I was gutted that I was leaving, but all my mates were in Birmingham. So I jump in the car, and I'm heading down to Birmingham. And then my mates called me and went, don't even bother coming. They're not even letting anyone else in. It's chocker. So I just had to go home. I just went home and went to bed. Anyway, I ended up getting a gig with this guy. He did a couple of events in Birmingham, and it sort of fell apart. But think how random that is for me, that 2 years later, I'm playing in that club for you.
Yeah, amazing.
Nuts.
Yeah, amazing. Yeah, it's amazing. I think the one thing I've always been proud of, Paul, and I appreciate that. I think I think me and Danny just got, fed up of this. And this isn't to do with the scene that we love. I'm just talking about the same circuit DJs, as I would call them. Gatecrasher, Passion, God's Kitchen, Slinky, you name it, flipping Mabel and Harry's chip shop in bloody Wakefield. I'm sorry, but yeah. So when, the likes of yourself and Lisa, Rob and Anne were already fairly established in a sense, because they came recommended. Anne Savage was, very well known in Leeds anyway, and Rob. And if and I'm sure, they'd be delighted for me to say that, Sundissential, particularly Sundissential North, enhanced their careers. But, at the end of the day, they were already plying their trade. But when I do look back with pride, Paul, I remember, and the lads won't mind me saying this, but the tardy fellas, Andy and Amadeus, because they would come to the events at the Pulse Club. And me and Danny always used to see him and always used to say hello. But at the time, and I'm sure again they would agree, they were producing the music that the guys, we all loved, we wanted to listen to, Nucleus, Tidy, blah 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 blah. And one day, I can't remember, at the old Club Europa in Leeds, not Evolution. I'm on about the place we occupied in the town.
Yeah.
Which was, it became legendary, Paul. It had a 1,200-1,300 capacity, and it would open at 2:30 on a bank holiday, or 2:00, and the doors would be locked by 3:30.
Yeah,
there was no cash going over the till. Everyone had a ticket, and it was phenomenal, and it stayed like that for 10 hours, but I remember one day, and I can't remember the so-called star DJ who couldn't make it. I can't, it's been too many years, But I'm sitting there, well, standing there having a bit of a mini meltdown because I can't remember who's on, but they were looking over at me going, right, that, you know, that they got to go.
Yeah.
And I'm looking round like this. And I've turned round and I can see Mozart and Pickles standing on where the upper bar was. And I've gone like this. And they've come down the stairs. I said, lads, silly question this, but if you ain't got your records in the car, have you? They've looked at each other and gone, we'll be back in a minute. And they came and I introduced them on, but the way I introduced them on as guys, we need to credit these pair because these pair, the two Northern Knuckle Draggers that are producing the music we love. Will you please now welcome the Tidy Boys? Roof went off. And you know, I'm sure as the older gentlemen they are now, they would appreciate that was probably the moment where their DJ careers took off. You know, so great times. I mean, great times for me personally. Things were going. I'm sure we'll discuss that, but. You know, it's such a massive achievement when I look back, Paul. You know, people say, well, why did we have Sundissential North? And, you know, me and Danny were the best of friends. You know, there was a time, you know, and you know that, you know, things changed and we became the worst of enemies, which is very sad. But people have said, well, why Sundissential North? You know, you've got Birmingham, you know, why you? And I said, well, it's simple. I said, my mate, Danny, he comes from up there. And as you know, Paul, he comes from 10 miles from near where you used to live. He came from Chesterfield, 10 miles from Sheffield.
Yep.
So we knew we couldn't open in Sheffield. No way. Gatecrasher, too powerful. Could have been seen as maybe trying to mop up a little bit of a post-Gatecrasher crowd.
Yeah.
And then I was reading an article one day about, and it wasn't in a music magazine. I think it was in I think it could have been me dad's Sunday Mail supplement. So it could have been anywhere. And it was this whole 2 pages of how the city of Leeds was adopting a new culture around its licensing laws. They wanted a more, you know, huge student population, growing city, you know, big companies up there. You know, they were just trying to create a sort of northern London-ish type thing that wasn't Manchester either, you know. So I read this article and I remember speaking to Danny about it. I said, listen, how about Leeds? I said, all right, it's not Sheffield, and you know, we're not going to open in Chesterfield, that's for sure, but we ain't going Sheffield, but we can go to Leeds. It's 30 miles further up the M1. And he's looked at me and I looked back at him and we've gone for it. So we put the feelers out, Paul. First of all, through the Rank organisation, which owned the Pulse Club in Birmingham, and their manager rang us and said, "Look, lads, we'll have you tomorrow." You know, and although it was a nice club, it was shoved in a sort of a bit of a shopping centre setup. It didn't. Right. I knew it would have problems. We'd have problems. We'd have, you know, I don't know. It just wouldn't look good in a shopping centre. You imagine bloody me and you doing Vicious Circle and bloody Sundissential North in
Meadowhall.
In Meadowhall. You know, you see me and you being led, you and Danny being led out in cuffs, you know. But I don't know how it happened. But a few days later, I had a phone call from a guy called John Williams, and he was the manager of the Club Europa in Leeds. And I remember seeing it on the corner, but it looked dead tiny from the outside, so we didn't really take much notice. So either someone somewhere through a little grapevine and mentioned to John. John rang me, and there we are, and we're back up the M1 again. And he took us into Europa, and me and Danny looked at each other and said, "When can we start?"
Yeah.
Because although it was a small on the outside, it opened up. It was still an open plan nightclub. Although it was 3 tiers, 2 tiers, sorry, 2 tiers. It was still front facing to the DJ booth. That's all we ever wanted.
Yeah.
You know that, Paul.
Yeah.
So whether the members were on the first floor or downstairs, they were facing, the antics going on at that end. And again, Paul, just like the Pulse in Birmingham, I think we launched in the March of 1998. Made a few errors here and there, but the August event had sold out, and we'd done a part 2 with the old Glass House in Leeds, the old Afters Club, and that was wicked. That was amazing, and that again. And then, unfortunately, come 2000, to say that we were riding the crest of a bloody huge Australian-style wave.
Yep.
We had a couple of weeks off after the New Year's events in 1999. We got involved with that Millennium crap, but to be honest with you, although we did something on the Millennium itself, we focused our events still on Boxing Day and New Year's Day.
Yeah.
All sold out. 2 cities, all sold out. And then we had a break, and then we relaunched in Brum on the 25th of January in the Millennium year of 2000. Club was full within no time at all. And towards the end of the evening, we had our first casualty. And subsequently, Sundissential was front page news every day for a week in the West Midlands press. Birmingham Evening Mail, Express and Star, the local radios, BRMB, Beacon, Central News, BBC Midlands. We were just, you couldn't escape it. We were being tarnished as killer club, and my reputation. People were asking questions about this notorious Madders and all this, and you know what the press are like, Paul.
Yeah.
But we managed. Well, although we lost, they booted us out, and then subsequently they closed down, which was very sad. The rank organisation, all the owners at the time, had a knee-jerk reaction to this incident. So in Birmingham, we were homeless for a while. Then we did a month in Leeds on a weekly Saturday night just to try and keep the Saturday bookings in place. It just didn't work at all. Leeds were happy to have us monthly, not weekly. It was a very, very bad decision. That was the opening Saturday night. You couldn't move in there. But the guys who worked for us up in Leeds, as much as they enjoyed the night, they weren't happy because they were grassroots, Paul. They were the ones who lived in Leeds. They were the students in Leeds. They were the one, working in Leeds, and they were from Leeds, And the talk was, nah, man, Sundissential up in the north of England needs to be on a Sunday. So there were some harsh lessons. And then blow me down, we ended up doing a bank holiday, Easter bank holiday in Club Europa, or the early May bank holiday. I can't remember. It was one of the two, and Wallop, second one.
Yeah.
Second death.
Yeah.
And Danny was down in Birmingham, and I had to phone him, and he was. He'd done a gig there, and he was on a high. He was superb, and I said, "All right, Danny, he wouldn't let me speak. He was like, yeah, wicked this, and so was wicked, and this was wicked, and she was fit, and that was good. And I said, will you fucking shut up? And he went stone silent, and I knew then I could speak to him. I said, sit down. And I had to say, we just had our second death done, and he burst. He was devastated. Started to get very emotional on the phone, and but Club Europa, the management and the police there, they were a lot more pragmatic.
Right.
Okay, because none of the deaths that occurred at Sundissential's events, the 2 in Birmingham and 2 in Leeds, could be pointed at as to be anything to do with the brand, or the venues, or any other policies, because you know, we worked with some good people in Leeds in the authorities, and they were pragmatic. And in all cases, Paul, of all 4 deaths that occurred, it was, and it's a shame. It's awful. I even like all these years on now, I still think of those people, and I still think of their families. Yeah. But they were all heart problems. Each individual that had passed away in Birmingham and in Leeds had defective hearts, and so them consuming, say, something like amphetamine-based drugs, like ecstasy or speed, or it was like giving them a loaded revolver, really. But we've soldiered on. I mean, to be honest with you, we were the first clubbing brand in Britain to employ an on-site, comes to something, Paul, and I'm sure you remember, on-site paramedic.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you what, like when I used to go, when I was a clubber, if we saw an ambulance outside a club, we'd be like, oh, fuck, like what's happened? But I remember coming to, this would have been like as a DJ, I would have got to Europa, and there used to be like a line, 5 or 6, 7 ambulances all in a row outside the club. And one thing I'll never forget, so you remember Helen, Danny's
missus?
Yes, yeah. Well, she lives around here now. I sold a house a few weeks ago, about a year ago. And this woman I'm selling the house to, she went, oh, I know someone that knows you. And I'm like, she went, Helen. I'm like, I don't know. She went, she used to go out with a guy called Danny from a club that you used to play at. I'm like, fucking hell. So I've not seen her, but apparently she lives 10 minutes from where I am now. Anyway, I was playing in Sundissential in Europa, and then she was doing some interviews, and she had to take me to the office, which was like upstairs. And we went back to get to the office. You had to go through the tap room, where all the barrels are.
Yeah.
And the people just laid out with the paramedics. Paramedics were like sitting on the beer barrels, just monitoring people. And I had to step around to crazy. Like obviously you don't see that when you're on the dance floor. Like it's only.
I'll tell you when
that goes to the culture.
Yeah, that wasn't Europa. That was Evolution. Because
Evolution.
Evolution in Leeds. Because I remember that well. Basically that tap room had more or less been an extension of Leeds Royal Infirmary.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
it was horrendous.
Right.
People were chucking that GHB down and like it was lemonade.
Yeah.
And it got to the point, I do believe, I think Danny dealt with Danny was dealing with that, really, if I remember. But I remember him telling me that the chief police officer of the Leeds divisions, who was on duty that day, being New Year's Day, it would have been bloody busy for him. He's come out with senior officers to see it and was going fucking ballistic. We had, like you say, several ambulances coming off West Yorkshire's allocated ambulance roster.
Yeah.
To be, my problems are documented, Paul, but they're slightly different, really. but we did struggle in Leeds, particularly around the use of GHB within the events, because we knew that, again, it was a potentially it could kill someone, and people would consume too much and they would go under. They would, so you had to call. There was no way that you could allow them to sleep off a drug like that. They had to be admitted to hospital. I mean, but yeah, I remember that well. It was carnage, Paul. It was fucking carnage, and it got to the point where I contemplated. In fact, I think I may have got on the mic, I was always on loving me mic, but I think there was a few times where I've had to sort of like say, guys, please, particularly around that, and ketamine, Paul, as well. I mean, those once bubbly people who were, dancing dancing away with all the old, all the hard house moves that I tried to copy and failed miserably at. But, I was young once. Don't ask me to do them now. It's like a fucking granddad with piles there, mate, The Spoogie, I think they called it. The Spoogie, great name.
Right.
But people were like sitting in corners like this.
Yeah.
And I'm looking at it and I'm thinking, you enjoying yourself, mate? Dribbling and it was changing, and it wasn't just at Sundissential and Sundissential North. It was
no, it's everywhere.
It was the same at the Tidy Weekenders, and probably the same in other clubs up and down in the country. But because Sundissential as a brand, North and Midlands, had this reputation, and people's lingering memories of the 4 deaths were very short, I must admit, which I understand. And
I think as a clubber, you almost want to sweep it under the carpet and not think about it, because it's.
Yeah, well, I did recently a theatre tour. I didn't tour. I was guest at I was the Midlands guest for this chap, and trying to think of the name now because it was quite successful. And I was open and honest around the attitude of people, some in the music media, people who should have known better, really. The clubbing scene comes out the rave scene, and what's it famous for, Paul? It's to take drugs. Let's have it right. Yeah. There's no way in a month of blue black pudding that I could dance to your music on fucking 10 pints of Guinness.
No.
Let's have it right, But of course, it was all that, little, you're wrong, really. But it's the way it was, and I'm sure probably in certain aspects of social society is the same as it is today. But and then we had the third one at the Q Club in the May Bank Holiday. So the first Leeds death was the first bank holiday.
Yeah.
The third death was in Birmingham on the second May Bank Holiday, so about 3-4 weeks apart. Couldn't get your breath.
Yeah.
And do you remember when they tried to replicate the famous Berlin Love Parade in the UK?
Yeah, was that in Leeds? That?
Yes, Round A Park.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we did 2 events that night. We did one at Europa, Sundissential North v Insomniacs, which, as you can imagine, was locked out. And the one that I was hosting was at another club in Leeds, which we'd hired for the night. And we did an event called Fergie Central, where Fergie did like 4 or 5 hours, right. Again, locked out.
Yeah.
And then that's where we had the 4th one. So, come the end of the summer.
Yeah.
2000, So the work that me and Danny had to do to save the brand, I mean, really, we should have been put to the sword. No authority, Birmingham particularly, they couldn't even bear the name. And if we approached venues to host us, they would say, not today, lads, But we got lucky. We were able to establish ourselves at Evolution, which I think really became the greatest of the Leeds venues, to be honest with you. Yeah. We could host brands, Good Grief from Manchester, when Eddie Halliwell was cutting his teeth. And so you had Sundissential North in the main arena, you had Sad from Good Grief in room 2.
Yep.
And then quite simply, Funky Central. I mean, it became an event of its own. So and that was in the bloody bar area, and that used to be absolutely heaving. I mean, if you wanted to go and pull the birds at the airport, that's where you went in the funky room.
Yeah.
So. Yeah, but yeah, that year 2000, and what I'm trying to say is, if we hadn't have had those incidents, that the brand Sundissential would have accelerated further in an upwards trajectory. There's no doubt about it. We had just begun riding the wave. And it was going, if you can see my hands, I'm doing my surfing impression, going.
It's like you're doing a Nazi salute.
Yeah, bloody hell, I better be careful there. So if we look at the trajectory, I'm going to get my teeth in, the brand was on such a huge incline. Yeah. But unfortunately, as I'm sure we're about to find out, things between me and Danny had already taken a turn for the worse anyway. And there was all sorts of factors, Paul. But, I mean, obviously I departed in 2003.
Was it as early as that?
Yeah. From before the brand started, me being and Danny, avid clubbers that we both enjoyed the byproducts of it.
Yeah.
We both like cocaine, as well as the other little bits and bobs, But and then the girlfriend that Danny was with at the time, like a girl called Debbie, not Helen. So Danny would go back home on the Sunday morning and, like Debbie, say, where's your money? If I fucking spent it with Madders. So it was basically, and it's true, we were going to the after parties and the little bars and the little things, and you got money in your pocket, and there's dealers hanging out your underpants, and it's the same for me, Paul. But I lived on my own. So I'd go home fucking skint and borrow off my mum and dad and pay them back the following week. Yeah. And Debbie said to Danny, if you need to be coming home with money, mate, or you were done. He stopped using that particular substance.
Right.
I didn't. Yeah. And it started to become a problem. And so in 1999, anyway, because of the accelerated growth and financial affairs needed to be taxed, and everything had to be, in line with any other business, Paul. My dad, who God rest his soul, he was a successful businessman and a bloody good accountant, and my dad became our accountant. We were renting offices off my parents in the Jewellery Quarter in Birmingham. Yep. And my dad kept on uncovering this photographer. And he pulled me and Danny up to his office and said, listen, lads, he's gone, you're fucking losing money with these things, these little weeklies and stuff. You're making money there and you're losing it there. And all in all, your big events are propping up this, you know. But why are you employing a photographer every Sunday or every Saturday?
And who's the photographer? Pablo Escobar.
Yeah, Pablo Escobar. That's a good one. You were right. I was obtaining fictitious invoices for a photographer and then running them through the books.
Right.
Taking the money. And my dad knew it. And when Danny realised what was going on, I remember Danny Kirk hitting the roof. I mean, by rights, the only reason he didn't take my jaw off him was because the conversation was held between me, him, and my dad was there, and I think I had a respect for my dad. But he got, again, very emotional, very angry. And I remember him telling me, Paul, and I am saddened by it, you know, that I don't, that trust, he trusted me with his life, Paul.
Yeah. Yeah.
He was a very handsome lad from the north of England, and when he landed in Birmingham, when we were going out, and there'd be gangs of lads and groups of men who unsavoury characters, if you will, Madan, who's your man, and we don't like him down here, and they're jealous, really, Paul.
Yeah.
Jealous. My mates loved him. Well, so that we absorbed him, type thing, but. A lot of people, I'd protect him.
Yeah,
I'd protect him. I would tell people to fuck off and mind their own business, and don't get him. Don't be having a crack at him. He's a good lad, and he's come down here to get a job, and he's my mate, and fuck off and mind. But yeah.
How much older are you than Danny? How much older are you?
5 years. 5 years. Yeah.
Right,
so
okay.
when I was I was the. I mean, I'm 59, so he's going to be 54 if he's still living in Sydney, because of course he's out there.
Yeah.
So, and he's been out in Australia nearly 20 years. So,
yeah. But what I'm saying is, you were like the bigger brother.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. His mum and dad loved me. His sister loved me. I broke his heart. But the thing is, though, although my dad totted up how much I plundered, which was a few grand, the company accounts, Sundissential accounts, we paid Danny back because my dad was adamant that whatever I had, he was to get the same.
Yeah.
So Danny ends up with a nice fucking check issued by the company. And literally, I'm left with a great big egg on my face and a lot of shame and guilt, really, because I do regret it, Paul. Because my honesty in my own recovery these days, tells me to look at things as face value and be totally honest around it, But I spent many years twisting that and blaming Danny for this and it was wrong, because what was taking hold within me was a fucking disease I still carry.
Yeah.
And will carry to the day I die, is the disease of addiction.
Yeah.
But addiction isn't drugs and alcohol. Of course it is drugs, alcohol, gambling, shagging, whatever.
Yeah. Addiction
is behaviours, Paul. My behaviours. I've had to do a lot of work on myself over the last 9 years that I've been. I'm 9 years clean and sober in April next year. I was 51 when I cleaned up, so I'm fucking lucky to be alive.
Yeah.
Ooh, that's me ghost. Ooh. So to reach 60 is a fucking miracle.
Well, mate, like I said to you just before, people listening to this won't have heard what we were saying before, but like there's been times and things, and I can't even remember the specifics, but I never thought I'd see you again. I didn't think anyone would see you again, and for us to be sat here now is incredible.
Yeah.
So I mean, tell everybody, I know it's the Wellbourne Clinic that helped you get yourself?
No, that's where I work now. No, I went into treatment. I was living in Worcester
Okay.
for about 7 years, Paul. I came out of prison in 2010. I mean, everything that can go wrong goes wrong with addiction, whether it's drink, drugs, whatever. And for me, I was no different, and I followed that path. I ended up in jail several times, bankrupt twice, homeless. I don't mean for long periods of street homelessness, but I never had a roof over my head. I'd be in a hostel. So sofa surfing. I mean, fucking hell. I mean, when I think back at it, Paul, really, compared to, what me and Danny, and it will always be me and Danny. You'll never hear me say what I created. That'll just be my self-centered, selfish addict saying that, if Danny just get the opportunity to watch this, now then, our lad, how are you? And I hope he's well. And Helen, if you do bump into her, say hello. A lot's changed since they emigrated.
Yeah.
No, and the drugs I was using at the beginning, Paul, weren't the drugs I was using. I ended up on crack cocaine. I was still running Sundissential when I was on crack cocaine, and it was getting well known that I was on it as well.
Right.
And then I started using heroin, but not as in a crack cocaine was my drug of choice. I used some heroin to ease the come down from that, but I didn't get physically addicted to opioids.
Okay.
I was quite scared of them, Paul, because it's insane, really. So I'm smoking crack until I'm turning into a fucking yellow skeleton, but I don't want to have too much smack in case I get addicted to it. It's fucking potty. But that's the thinking, my thinking.
Yeah.
So I started abusing alcohol and like prescription medications and things like Valium, diazepam, and sort of opioid prescription medication like tramadol and amitriptyline and all sorts of stuff. But the nemesis drug, the cocaine family was the. So yeah, I think fucking what's his name? The Medellin cartel, owe me a lot of accolades, Paul. I kept Colombia's economy going for about fucking 17 years. But and I thank God. I'm not a religious man, but I thank God that I managed to at the tender. I went into treatment the first time. I didn't get it.
Yeah.
I was still behaving like Madders, egotistic, bullshitter. Grossly dishonest to the core, inflated.
What was the
ego.
switch? What made the at 51? What made the difference?
Well, I went back to Worcester, having done a year in this treatment centre. I mean, back then, Paul, if you were lucky, you could get what was then known as a charity bed.
Right.
And I am forever grateful to a place in Birmingham called Livingston House.
Yeah.
And not only did I clean up there, I also worked there for 7 years. I ended up in a tremendous role. I am eternally grateful to Sally Livingston and her family and many of the guys who they don't work there. Some still work there. Some have moved on. My current boss. I'm sure he's going to be waiting for my current boss. His name's Tom Jones. That's his real name, Paul. It's not unusual.
Oh, Tom, that's who connected us, isn't it? So
yeah.
Let me explain how we ended up reconnecting. So I had a guy. Yeah. Oh God, shit! I should have remembered who it was.
Tom Jones.
Someone reached out. No. Someone who watches the podcast reached out and said you should get Madders on. And my initial reaction was, fucking hell, that could be a bit risky. And I'm like, is Madders even still around? And then he's like, no, he's cleaned himself up. He's on track.
Yeah.
And then he sent me a link to that must have been the Livingston House thing, I
I
think.
think it was the Wellbourne Clinic, mate, because
the Wellbourne Clinic, right?
Yeah,
Sorry, yeah.
yeah.
And I just sent a message saying, look, I'm an old colleague of Paul's. You know, I do a podcast talking about the origins of the hard house scene, and you know, if you could just pass this message on, hopefully, you know, it'd be just nice even just to say hello. And then Tom Jones replied and said, I've passed it on. And then I get a message from you. Now then, Glazer. I'm like,
yeah. I had a lovely message off Tom this morning, actually, you know, wishing me and you all the best for today.
oh, nice.
You know, I've got 3 male heroes. A lot of people say who's your heroes and they expect it to be DJs, or they're not, Paul. You know, my 3 male heroes is one, my dad.
Yep.
Because all he ever wanted was for me to sort myself out. You know, my dad was a very hardworking. I don't know if you remember, Paul, but my dad came from India. I'm mixed heritage, and
Right.
so Indian father and a blonde-haired, blue-eyed Protestant Brummie mother, Pam, who bless her's alive and well at the age of 90, and I helped look after her. So that's another thing that you know how my life has become. But so there's my dad, and there's the actor Steve McQueen, who was famous for like Great Escape and Towering Inferno and Bullet, and he was just a cool bastard, you know. And and then the other one, and I'm being honest, and I'm sure Tom will watch this at some point, but he already knows anyway. I mean, it's Tom Jones, and it's not the fucking singer here. It's my boss. He's a friend of mine. He is a mentor, and my governor. And he has been. I met him in 2015 when I first went to Livingston House.
Yep. I
was back in Livingston House quite early on in 2017, and my growth, and it was my dad's death, Paul, really was the turning point. You know,
right.
Having to go back to treatment again. At this time, I was 51, nowhere to live, lost my dad, broke my mum's heart and my sister's heart because I'd been back using and boozing again.
Yeah.
But that's when I changed, Paul. As I got clean and started to do a recovery program with honesty and with open-mindedness and willingness, believe it or not, I started to get well. And I started to explore through people like Tom and another guy, Lee, and there's loads of Martin. I mean, there's so many people that I can accredit to. There's one guy, this will make you smile, who was a pivotal part of my recovery. His name's Craig. He's an avid Birmingham City fan. I'm a Villa fan, so we're always having that banter.
Yeah.
And he was one of the staff members at Livingston House when I landed in 2015, and he said to me, "You remember me, don't you, Madders?" And I'd done a lot of drugs and drank a lot of drink at that point in my life, Paul, and I couldn't remember him. And fucking hell, he only used to work the door at Wobble in Birmingham, which was a well-known. You know, I couldn't. But yet, you know, I was with Craig only the other week. But my circle now is not vicious. Excuse the pun. It's a very healthy circle. You know, I and Tom. You know, he's only just gone 40. And the things that he's achieved, he may be touching 41, but the things he's achieved in his own recovery, his education, his training, his development, his family values, his knowledge around addiction and the services, mental health, and all sorts of things that, you know, make up the addiction pot.
Yeah.
You know, he's very, very knowledgeable. And what he's done for me, Paul, is priceless. I remember, you know, being a fresh worker at Livingston House and sometimes having arguments with colleagues, or, you know, when you're transitioning from active addiction to working in the field, it's you've got to you've got to really change, you know, because you're still behaving a little bit like you're still using and drinking.
Yeah.
So Tom would get me into his office and check this out, Paul. He's the only man I've ever known in my life who could give me a fucking bollocking for those behaviours and still make me feel $1 million during the bollocking. Now, that is some very, very, very unique skill set.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I'd have the bollocking and I'd walk out like this. Oi, oi. Because his and I don't mean that arrogantly, his management of me and other people to this very moment is an exceptional skill, God-given skill. And he compliments me for the God-given skill that I still carry in my ability to connect with people across a broad spectrum very quickly. You know, I'm still a people person, Paul. Obviously, you know, extrinsically motivated these days to want to help people rather than being the intrinsic, give me, mine, you know, money, drugs, booze, this, that, other. And so, you know, and so when the opportunity came to follow Tom into his own business, which he established in 2023 in a lovely little Warwickshire town called Kenilworth, which is near Coventry as the crow flies, Paul. But it's in that Warwickshire belt of Kenilworth, Warwick, Leamington Spa, Stratford upon Avon. So you know, you've done your mileage, Paul. You probably have passed through.
Yeah.
I joined full time last July 2024 as a practitioner. I have a varied role across the board at the Wellbourne Clinic. I love the Wellbourne Clinic. We have 6 beds, quite an intimate setup. We're therapy led rather than just recovery group led. Therapy meaning psychotherapy, you know, intense therapy, and holistic practice. I love it there, and you know, I'm still working for Tom. I'm able to tap into his unique skills. The other director, John, is another guy. He's my actual supervisor. And in 2017, Paul, I had like 12 weeks of psychotherapy with John, and he helped me through the death of my father and the near death of my sister.
Right.
So he's another guy who I hold in high esteem. So that's and then the Dr. B, clinically taught me a lot when I used to work at Livingston. You know, clinical processes within clinical assessment processes, and then over a period of years, he has also become, I'd like to call, a friend. So I am working really for three friends. Although when I am at work, you know, they're the bosses. It's that simple. You know, I don't play them cards, Paul.
No.
You know, if I make a mistake, I still expect to have to get a bollocking off anyone of the management team.
But when you get a bollocking, you can walk out like we.
Yeah. I mean, obviously, that's Tom's exceptional skill. But you know, obviously, John and the Doctor, they're professional men.
Yeah.
You know, and I'm teachable, Paul. I think that's the most important thing. One of the most important aspects of my own recovery is we have to remain teachable. You know, I'm learning new things every day. From people who are a lot younger than me and still a lot older than me. You know, it's part of my life's trail now. I'm very proud in a sense to say, hi, my name's Paul. I'm a recovering addict. I mean, Paul was my real first name, Paul Madan. Madders comes from the surname, you know that.
Yeah.
Or I'll say, you know, oh, my name's Madders, I'm a recovering addict, because that's what I am, Paul. You know, I might be heading towards my ninth birthday next year, but, you know, my main focus is that I don't pick up a drink or drug today. And that's it. You know, tomorrow's a different day, mate. You know, but today I guarantee you, and I guarantee my mum, and I guarantee John and the doctor and Tom and my sister and my nephews and my mates and my cousins and next door's cat, that today I'm going to bed tonight without any substance in my system or having taken an alcoholic drink, you know. So So the Wellbourne Clinic is in Leeds, Kenilworth, and I'm going to say, Paul, and I know we've spoken about it, and I'm appealing to those of you that either know me or don't know me, that may have ended up like me, or know people that have got problems around the behaviours and the, you know, form as part of the disease of addiction, because it's a fucking killer disease. You know, that have got problems with substance misuse disorder, problems with prescription medications, problems with alcohol, then, you know, please call the Wellbourne Clinic in Kenilworth, Warwickshire. I'm sure
we'll put the number in the show notes.
Brilliant, Paul, and you know, myself and the rest of the guys there, Lauren, our admissions lead there, and the rest of the team. You know, we're ready, we're willing, we're able to help. You know, I can't name names, Paul, but you'd be surprised who I've helped, both at LH and at the Wellbourne Clinic, who are known people, shall we say. But I naturally can't go down that path. But put it this way, Glazer, I'm not the only one who ended up with problems, mate. You know,
no, and you won't be the last.
No, and I won't be the last. So, so the Wellbourne Clinic, I'm very and you know, as long as I can keep my health, hence me going to the gym 3-4 times a week and having a bit of personal training.
Yeah, nice.
My health is my asset, and you know, I'd like to retire, having completed the remainder of my career at the Wellbourne Clinic. I'd be happy to do so. I love it there. I love the people I work with. Beautiful area. You know, great recovery community in Warwickshire, and our service users, our residents, you know, they're beautiful people. They just poorly, like I became, you know, and it's great on a personal level when I can see them flower.
Yeah.
You know, when they get into recovery and they start building up some recovery capital, and you know, they're back in employment, the marriage has been saved, someone's become a granddad or a dad or a mum or a nan. You know, Paul, the disease of addiction, it doesn't just pick on bell ends like Madders. It doesn't discriminate against race, religion, lack of religion, creed, caste, gender. You know, addiction, it's a killer illness, and it kills people from every corner of the globe on a daily basis. 1,000 British people, Paul, per week. Listen to this: 1,000 British people per week die as a direct or indirect result of their drinking.
Yeah.
A week.
Yeah. A week. Yeah.
Not a month or a year. A week.
Yeah.
4,000 British people die die per annum as a direct result of a drug-induced issue, overdose, or heart failure. You know, the way they measure drug death sometimes I find a little bit baffling. You know, but the stats on alcohol are shocking. You know, it's 1,000 British people per week.
Yeah.
You know, die of something that across the world in most countries is a perfectly legal substance and enjoyed by billions. You know, I don't drink for obvious reasons. I've got no problem with people who do drink. I'm back with a lot of my old pre-addict friends from the 1980s. They all have a drink, bar a couple, but they protect my sobriety.
Yeah.
They're proud of me, you know, and I'm out with them this Saturday to help celebrate my birthday. The Wellbourne gang are taking me for a curry on Thursday this week, so
Oh, nice.
I have an action-packed diary, Paul. Me,
You know,
out with my family on the 12th of October, and with my lady friend doing stuff with her. She lives in Worcester.
Okay.
That's coincidental, etc. So yeah, like Paul, life's great. You know, there's only a few things I wouldn't change. But you know what? Whether it's Sundissential, my childhood, my active addiction years, my recovery, you know, everything has defined me to this very moment.
Yeah, that's right.
And I am delighted and proud to be alive. There were a lot of rumours, weren't there, Paul? That, you know, many. I mean, I'd go to Birmingham city centre and I'd have someone walk up to me as though they'd seen a fucking ghost.
Yeah.
Because the rumour mill was rife with Madan is dead, you know, and
well, guys, he's very much alive. Here he is.
I'm alive. Woo! That's me ghost impression here. It's not brilliant. Fucking,
well, let's make sure it is just an impression for a long time to come, mate.
No, it will be, Paul. I did my first 5K run on Saturday.
Oh yeah.
I barely. I mean, it took me a while. It took me a while.
That's fine.
You know, I have a personal trainer, and I have the odd fag now. I mean, you've probably caught me having a little vape. As I say, I don't drink. Certainly, class A free. Try to follow a fairly healthy diet lifestyle.
Yeah.
You know, because my passions these days are as I've said, to help these still suffering addicts and alcoholic out there, and I'm back at work tomorrow. For you know, and there's admissions coming in all the time. Yeah. And I just want to be able to continue with the wonderful role that I occupy at the Wellbourne Clinic, and to continue that until it's time to you know, retire. It's mad to use the word retirement, Paul. It's insane, but you know that, you know, you're all right for a few years, but you know, when I think about it, the 7 years that I have left as a, well, 7 and a bit, they'll fly by, man. You know, they will fly by. So I want to make the most of the working career I have left, and still help continue to help be part of a successful team, driving forward the Wellbourne Clinic to new heights.
Yeah.
You know,
well, mate, I mean, continuing the legacy, if there's ever, I mean, there certainly will be, you know, people that look back on the whole evolution of the hard house sort of scene, and you know, you'll be part of that forever, you know, like a big part of it.
Yeah, so, and I thank you, Paul. But it's, you know, it is surreal. I mean, while we've been having this interview, chat, I prefer to call it a chat rather than an interview. You know, the old memory bank is sort of, you know, trying to pull out bits and bobs, you know. But I mean, if we were to do the whole fucking lot, you know, I mean, it's 11:21 here in Blighty. We'd still be having this conversation in 24 hours from now.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you what, mate. You know, E&M, he came on a few months ago, and literally the next day, he sent me a message and said, I want to come on again because I've just thought of loads of shit I never said.
Yeah.
And last week, his second episode came out. So there's no reason why we can't do this again sometime.
No, I'd love to. And you can send my love to E&M, because he was... and just before we finish, Paul, and it's funny you say that. Danny and I invited E&M to become our Sundissential North resident after Tony's death.
Yes.
And the slot that Tony had the closing slot at Club Europa, Ian took over and, just lived up to, Ian's a lovely man. I had some good laughs with him. So I'll be delighted to come back on, and you can send my love to the old Leicester Tiger there, bless him.
And Anne Savage told me to say, because I interviewed Anne Savage last week, and she said to send her love.
And likewise, Paul, send my love to Anne and Rob, if and whoever, look.
For sure.
Just please send my love out, and love to you, and love to send. If you see Danny and Helen, regards. And look, a lot's changed, Paul, over the. I may not, especially over the last 8 years. My recovery has led me to great pastures, and long may that continue. So thank you.
Exactly.
Thank you, Paul. Much appreciated.
God bless you, Madders.
God bless. Thank you, mate.
You are listening to Hard House History with Paul Glazby.